Today I'd like to talk about the psychological effects of COVID-19. Dr. Paul Nyende from Makerere University, Uganda. COVID has had several devastating psychological effects and will still have significant effects on the population. But although not much has been talked about the psychological effects, the discussions have been focused more on the physical health and the statistics, especially the statistics, and also telling us what we should do in terms of protecting ourselves from catching the infection. But very little has been discussed regarding psychological well-being. And yet, any epidemic will leave trauma and psychological scars on the population. The social media discussions have actually inflamed the situation because these discussions are not censored. So much false information has come through, and that can be more frightening to the population than being useful. In a sense, we have kind of developed global mass hysteria. That's the main outcome. We are now expecting the worst to happen at any time. And generally we are anxious. This kind of uncertainty is likely to strengthen the anxiety among the population. Physical illnesses are likely to trigger anxieties. Anything that has to do with respiratory problems right now, chances are you'll be stigmatized and you'll be scared to death. So the anxiety is building in society. Of course, lockdowns are inevitable when it comes to contagious diseases and those airborne diseases. A lockdown is probably one of the best ways to do control infections. But it generates a lack of control, bringing about despair. So we are locked up, we are staying home, we feel a sense of incarceration, and this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness is an underlying mechanism of stress, severe stress and depression. So over the days during the lockdown, we expect to see increased stress among the population, and definitely depression will result over time, because the period might be extended depending on the cases that are coming in. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and the population is very frightened. We may have developed resilience, especially here in Africa. We've gone through very tough early upbringings, and we have been beset by diseases. But we are unsure how long this is going to take place, and also because of our lack of resources. We are also seeing reports from the developed world, resources being stretched beyond reasonable levels, having to reuse materials that are disposable. And that is very frightening to us because we don't have resources in Africa. So that in a way also increases the amount of anxiety that we are experiencing. What if it hits Africa? With the minimal resources that we have, are we able to contain this infection? Failure to provide for your family during a lockdown is a real test for parenting. Many low-income earners here live by the day, and without going out to work, there was probably no food on the table. And that is embarrassing, it is threatening, it is frightening for any parent. Isolation also takes away the social reinforcement and the social support that make life worth living. Without the social reinforcement, we feel dejected. And it is also likely to increase the likelihood for depression among the population. The social support is necessary. It is more of a way of keeping us going. It kind of oils our life in a way. lubricates our life, and without that as well, because we have become individualistic, it's now survival for those who have resources, and those who don't have resources are likely to perish. So it becomes challenging for people to survive under these circumstances. Extroverted individuals, particularly, are likely to be affected by the social isolation. And those who depend a great deal on others for self-validation. That reinforcement is cut off, and everything falls flat. A sense of despair will be the result. Some people are attached to their jobs, and their jobs are the source of esteem. The stay home means that that has been cut away from you, and that we feel a sense of dejection, a sense of misery. The boredom and redundancy at home, especially for those who have not developed any other hobbies other than being embedded in work, can also be a source of misery and dejection. And those who are cramped up in a little apartment with fairly large family are likely to have conflict. Small space congestion triggers emotional upset and ultimately conflict. So families are likely to be disrupted because of small spaces. Increased alcohol consumption is likely for those who have nothing to do and have access to alcohol. And so a new problem may be sin. Increased intake would lead to addiction and many other alcohol-related problems. And of course, for those who are dependent on alcohol, punishing withdrawal symptoms are likely to be evident. So given those domains, COVID calls for abrupt life changes, which changes we are not prepared for. And there is no mechanism, especially here in Uganda, to mitigate the psychological effects. So we need to see that psychologists are involved in the process of fighting COVID, and even thereafter, things will not stay the same. It is going to leave a scar in our society, and that there's quite a lot of work to be done to rehabilitate people so that they are functional as we build a nation.